Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Comic Book Nostalgia. I'm CB Nostalgia, and we're doing a little review of Morbius. Well, the latest entry in Sony's Spider-Man universe dropped in theaters this week, so we thought we could take a couple minutes to dive in. It's getting a lot of media attention, some calling it the worst Marvel movie ever. And quite honestly, it simply is not quite as bad as people are making it out. It's got its ups, it's got its downs, but it's definitely not the worst ever. So let's take a couple minutes to review the movie, talk about what worked, talk about what didn't, and what might be in store for the future of the character. Now before we swing into this though, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. Also, the big giveaway. We're going to give away this Oculus Quest 2 at 50,000 subscribers. All you need to do to get in on the giveaway is be a subscriber and leave us a comment. Also, while you're at it, make sure you check out that free week of Skillshare down below. It's a pretty cool way for you to develop your superhero skills for that never-ending war on crime, all while not diving too deep into your pockets. Plus, it really does help the channel, so we really appreciate it. Well, like I was saying, I got a chance to finally see Morbius earlier today. The Marvel vampire character has been around in the comics for quite a long time and is specifically associated with Spider-Man, so he's actually part of the Sony Spider-Man universe. Now, we've been hearing a lot of hyperbole about this movie, calling it the worst Marvel movie ever. And quite honestly, I totally don't think that's fair. Now, it's not the greatest Marvel movie ever. Let's not get too far out on a limb. But there are quite a few good things that do work, and I could probably fill up a whole hand with Marvel movies that are significantly worse, including Fan-4stick, Dark Phoenix, and New Mutants. So let's take a couple minutes to talk about what worked right out of the gate. We'll start with the positive. Jared Leto is always quite enjoyable on screen, and he really does sell the role as Dr. Michael Morbius, a man stricken with a debilitating blood disease who's looking for a cure and digs in all the wrong places. Now, the contrast on how sick Michael and Milo are before and after their transformation is quite stark. It totally reminded me of the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire when he pops up in the mirror in the morning, and we pretty much get the same scene as that in this film. I also liked how it was very much a standalone movie. Now, this isn't part of the MCU, but it is part of Sony's Spiderverse, and outside of the Daily Bugle and a couple of mentions of Venom, this movie does a pretty good job standing on its own. Now, given some of the other issues, this could have helped in some ways, but overall I like it when a movie does its own things. Now, the echolocation and the implementation of Morbius' powers was very well visualized, and even the slow motion was really comic book-esque. If anything was the highlight of the movie, it was how they implemented his powers. So, although the movie, like I said, has issues, this was really an absolutely good part. Also, to be fair, the final battle wasn't bad either. The showdown between Morbius and Milo is pretty predictable from early on in the movie, but it does work, and I had a pretty good time watching that part of the film, so there's no complaints from me there. As a matter of fact, Matt Smith's Milo, although not really the character we were expecting to get, wasn't too bad, and I did like their dynamic between the two friends on screen. Now, the bad stuff. Well, to be fair, pretty much anything story related was bad. The movie was very much a 1990s era superhero film, but it often felt disjointed and sometimes quite random. Also, the editing and the pacing were simply off. Honestly, like many other superhero movies, the first and second act mostly moved right along, until it doesn't, and then it pretty much slows down to a complete crawl. This happened with many of the plot points, and they seemed to drag out a little bit too long. Now, this might be unpopular, but I felt like Therese was mostly meh. His character Stroud was sort of predictable and mostly just brooded a little bit. But I will say his partner, Agent Rodriguez, that was played by Al Madrigal, is pretty fun and gave some comedy to the movie that wasn't expected. Honestly, if there was a breakout character in the movie, it was Al's. And, gosh, probably the worst part of the whole film were the post-credit scenes. Now, we were teased with Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes early on in the trailers, and he did seem fully integrated into the story. But all of those scenes were cut, and even the scene with Morbius walking down the alley where we see the Spider-Man poster. As a matter of fact, outside of the Daily Bugle, there's no signs of Spider-Man anywhere. By the time we get to the post-credit scenes, they feel absolutely forced and worthless. The first post-credit scene involves Michael Keaton being zapped into Sony's universe and then being released from jail. Why this happened in that direction, we have no idea, because that's not what Doctor Strange said was going on. The second one involved the Vulture running down Dr. Morbius and meeting him at a very remote location. Now, he does suggest to Morbius that maybe a group of guys like him could do some good, but that doesn't sound like a setup to the Sinister Six to me, and nothing about Michael Morbius' character throughout the movie indicated he was a villain. Adrian Toomes is a villain. Morbius, at least this presentation, really was not, mostly misunderstood. So also, that scene made absolutely no sense. The future of Morbius might lie with the Sinister Six, but I really didn't feel like this scene set it up very well, or why he would even be remotely motivated to be part of a group of that nature. Now, typically, I don't review a lot of movies that I didn't really like, but we're trying to break that trend to give you some honest insight into these films. Was this the worst Marvel movie ever? No. Is it something really worth seeing? Probably still a no. Overall, I'm going to give the movie a 5.5 out of 10. It needs lots of work in lots of places, but it wasn't the first movie ever. Actually, I'd probably give the first half of the movie a 5 and the second half of the movie a 0.5, because that's really where the wheels fall off the wagon. But I'm curious on what you guys think. How did you like Michael Morbius on the big screen? And although the movie clearly has problems, what parts did you think were well done? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you hit like and click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you're not getting any updates. Peace.